Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for holding this very important hearing. I'm so proud of this Congress and many on this committee for passing the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, and I'm glad to get an update today on how that money is being impactful to help our kids. It's part of a trend. We're spending more money today on mental health than ever before. We've gone from about $155 billion in 2010 to $238 billion in 2020, and it's still not enough. But I think this hearing is so important because I think we have come to the conclusion that unless you get at the root causes of unhappiness and isolation and loneliness, there is almost no amount of money that can make up for that inattention. So, Dr. Murthy, I wanted to continue this conversation about social media. In part because I think it's the most immediate public policy concern that this Congress can tackle, and because I think there's easy agreement between Republicans and Democrats, but not because I think it's the whole story. I think, frankly, we probably spend more time than we should talking about this narrow but very important problem that our kids are facing. But I think we can do something about it, so let's not lose the opportunity. I know the administration hasn't endorsed any specific policy proposals, but just give us your take on which direction we should head. So Senator Schatz and Cotton and Britt and I have a piece of legislation that says you got to do age verification to make sure that you can't get on before you're 13. You can't use algorithm boosting on younger kids, and parents have to have a say. Other legislation says you should have a standard that applies to social media companies so that they're only putting healthy content online. As you look at the sort of cornucopia of policy options that Congress is looking at here, what direction would you point us in to best protect our kids? What are the tactics that the social media companies are using that are most disturbing to you? And I'll just give you, maybe the statistic that is most worrying to me. There's a recent study that shows within 2 minutes of establishing a TikTok account, a teenager can be fed information glorifying suicide. Within 4 minutes of establishing a TikTok account, a teenager can be sent content celebrating eating disorders. That's how quickly really damaging, really dangerous content can get to kids who are in crisis, who are in trouble. And it just compels us in this Congress to do something about it. So give us a little bit of advice.
Well, thanks, Senator. And I just want to also appreciate your leadership on the issue of loneliness and isolation. It's been an honor to work together with you on addressing this. And I agree with you that there are multiple drivers of the mental health crisis. Social media is one of them, and I agree it's an important one for us to address. A few things I would say in terms of avenues to focus on, recognizing that social media has been around for almost 2 decades. During that time, there has been a lot of evolution in the platforms, a lot of different ways in which it is affecting our kids' lives. And so there's actually a lot to do here if we truly want to make them safe. I think one certainly is around enforcement concerning age. Many platforms establish 13 as the age at which kids can use social media. By the way, that is not based on health grounds, the age of 13, and although many people think it is. But 40% of kids 8 through 12 are on social media. So whatever rules the platforms have in place are very poorly enforced. I think the second area is we need to protect the privacy, data privacy of kids. Kids, to this point, do not have sufficient control over their data, neither do their parents. This data is often used into direct ads to them and other content as driven by the algorithms. We need to give kids and parents control over that data. The third is actually around data transparency. Companies are not fully disclosing the data they have about the health impacts of their platforms to our kids, to parents, to researchers, and to the public at large. This is what researchers tell us all the time. And without that transparency, we don't even know the full extent of the problem and which kids are most affected, and so it's hard to target interventions. But finally, I would say when it comes to safety standards, this is a place where I do think we can build models off of other products where we've established safety standards, whether it's for cars, car seats, medication, baby formula, whatever you want to consider as a parallel. But the bottom line is we need to have standards that push companies to assure us and to be able to demonstrate through data that they're not exposing our kids to harmful content, that they are not, in fact, allowing kids to be bullied and harassed online, particularly by strangers, and also that they're not promoting the use of features that lead to excessive use. We know that kids are at a vulnerable stage here of development, and they're particularly susceptible to some of these features. We can't have companies taking advantage of those. So these are some areas that I think are essential for us. And I think, I would be happy to work with you and other members of this committee as you develop, legislation around this, because I think this can't come soon enough.
I appreciate our partnership. I appreciate your guidance to this committee. The only thing we cannot afford to do is to stand pat. There's a consensus here that we can find with your help. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.